Yeah, all the sports have been
We have a minute. We have been around each other so much, doesn't it? We can make it look totally full. I'll separate
You could really clap your hands a lot and
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's restaurant style, high elbow. We needed that on Facebook Live.
We take everything seriously.
So we'll just kind of keep it kind of cash this morning. Worthy every song we could ever sing. Worthy all the praise we could ever do. Worthy every breath we could ever do. We live for you. We live for you. Jesus, name bolder than another name. Jesus, the only one who could ever sing. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes, and what they would show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I will build my life upon your word. It is a firm foundation. I will place my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes and what will show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. You may be seated.
Don't so casual.
I don't have time to Lysol for you, so. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Journey United Methodist Church, where we are disciples of Jesus, reaching out and spreading hope. And thank you for being here this morning. A few announcements regarding your email. Keep an eye on it, just for new church announcements, any changes with any scheduling over the next several weeks. And the offering today will be taken up after the service. Please just come up and place your offering in the basket under the television. The ladies' Bible study is the last meeting today at 4 o'clock. So please plan on attending that. And Ed?
Yeah, so just note that the only thing we're spreading today is hope, right? So also today at 4 o'clock is the Finance Committee meeting. We're planning on meeting in this room for anyone who might be included in that. So I came up here to just remind you again about, was there something else?
You. Yeah, I'm helping you. Feeding you.
Thank you.
Yes.
The Men's game night. It is not this Tuesday, it's the next Tuesday.
Yeah.
March 24th, game night. All right, it'll be a cornhole tournament and wild game. And so, contrary to what might have been said in the past, see, I made sure I was here today to do this announcement for Tony. So I'm not playing the brownies, okay?
But they're so good.
So, what do we have confirmed right now? We have buffalo, venison, maybe some venison chili, gray snapper, and some of Randy's grilled squirrel legs from his backyard collection. So you got to come to experience a men's game night right here Tuesday night, March 24th. Be a couple of emails going out. Guys, if you know you're going to be there, then let us know. We'll make sure that there's a
Tell them
team.
you're bringing the Appalachian cornhole things if they want to support their schools.
Yeah,
Bring
yeah.
teams.
So, no, I'm not going to do it. Thank you.
Church, please join me in prayer. Gracious God, thank you for this day and for bringing us together to worship you. Lord, we believe in you and you provide all the hope and the peace that we need. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Right on. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Before I get started, there is one thing that you do need to know if you didn't know it, but I'm going to remind you of it, and that is that God is in control. It's not really the purpose of this sermon today, but it's certainly the purpose of what I would want to tell you. If there's a first thing to come out of my mouth, is that no matter what we face, especially the things that we can't wrap our arms around, and we can't really know the exact extent of it, we do know that God is in control. I figured you needed to hear that this morning, even though you probably already knew it. So we are still in our series called CSI Jerusalem, where we are uncovering the story of the cross as it was a crime scene. And I want to start by just throwing some things out there. Things like delusion of grandeur, a break from reality, perhaps even good intentions. These are all ways that I would describe the mindset of a person who has a catastrophic blunder, right? When someone really blows something really bad, it's either they thought they were a lot better than they were, they weren't thinking at all when they tried it, hey, y'all watch this, that kind of routine. Or maybe they had the best intentions, and it just failed. Well-meaning people, when they blow it. Like the Titanic, for instance. The Titanic, on its maiden voyage, it was touted as the most powerful ship, and it had the most formidable hull of any ship of its time. The only thing that they forgot is that really, really cold water causes metal fatigue. And no matter how strong that was, it was no match. It became almost brittle when it hit that iceberg. Now fast forward to about 1985, and you're looking at middle school Mike. Now middle school Mike had this wonderful, grandiose plan. It was touch football, and I said, I want to be the quarterback. And I remember these words, and you live and die by what you say. I said to one guy, I said, look, I'm going to play quarterback. You get to where that route is, and the ball will be there. Well, I had thrown a Nerf ball before. I thought I had it. I only came up about 20 yards shy, and I threw it to the defender, my friend Rob Dwyer, who then ran it back for a touchdown. Now insert your own story. You had this idea, or you had a plan, and it didn't go quite as planned, and you failed miserably. Or you have this mammoth promise that you want to make. You said, you know what? I am not going to break this promise. This is huge. I know it is, but I'm not going to break it under penalty of my own life. And then you fail, and it all implodes on Like I said, you're at CSI Jerusalem. At this point, we have a suspect in custody. Last week, Jesus was brought into custody. And welcome to the crime scene now as we move around it and we start talking to some of the witnesses. This is where I think we hope that some will return to the scene of the crime, right? Or maybe they haven't left it. And then you hope when you start questioning these people, as they give their answer, they'll share more than what the initial question is, so you can find out more about what's going on. So remember, this quest is for the truth. That's been the whole thing that's helped hold this whole series together, is that you take the evidence, and from the evidence you find the truth. So, our victim is Jesus. He's been taken into custody, questioned, and beaten to discover just how big his following has gotten. They want to see how big this guy is. And we know that from the Last Supper, if we're in Matthew's Gospel, we know that the disciples were not even able to stay awake for this time. So this question of how big his following has gotten is only hampered by the humanity that he's wrapped around him. But we know from the Last Supper, all of them except for Judas said, I will never denounce you. I will never denounce you. In fact, Peter goes on to say that, Lord, under penalty of my own death, I will never, ever disown you. So I want to be a little sharper than I've been last week. Because last week and the week before, we had to find a single thing that was true. But I'm going to tell you two things that are true. But what's important is that you got to follow the second one. And you'll see what I'm saying in a minute. So the first truth is this. Peter's denial shows how weak his faith is. True. We know that. He picked up he picked his own preservation over the Lord and his connection to Jesus. He picked staying alive over that. We know that. But the second truth is that Peter's denial instead shows the faithfulness of Jesus despite Peter's weakness. Same truth, but a little bit different. In fact, what we're doing is we're taking the gospel, the good news, and we're making it the main star there. What Jesus does is something that we could never have done. And that's why that truth is the more important truth to follow. It shows the depth of Jesus' strength. And Peter's weakness and ours is just a byproduct, something that can actually be turned around because of it. Now, if you have your Bibles with you, I'm going to be in Matthew chapter 26. You've got your phones with you. You at home. By the way, hi guys. If you want to shoot me a text, that's fine. I don't have the beeper on, but I'll at least know you're out there. Glad to have you with us. Matthew 26. I'm going to have to rely on you to have something available with you. I'm going to be at verse 69. Matthew 26, verse 69. So now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came in to him. You also were with Jesus of Galilee, she said. But he denied it before them all. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another servant girl saw him and said to the people out there, this fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth. He denied it again with an oath. I don't know the man. After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, surely you were one of them. Your accent gives you away. Then he began to call down court curses and swore to them, I don't know the man. And immediately the rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken. Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. And he went outside and wept bitterly. You know, this for me is one of the heaviest parts of the crime scene. Where the human ego meets up with something bigger, a bigger adversary, and gives in. And just like back in middle school, I'm so sure of myself. I'm going to go the distance. I'm going to do exactly what I said I'm going to do. I mean, even today, Even today, if you ask me, I would say there's no way I would denounce Jesus. There's no way. He's been so much of my life. He's changed me in such a way that I could never, ever be the same. But yet, I don't know what would happen. If there was a credible danger, if there was real ridicule being done, or would I have the guts to even say something? If there was something coming at me. You know, as a people pleaser, that's a lot of times who I am. I can tell you right now, my first instincts are not always my best. But we all know the mood, right? We all know what this must have been like. This was not just simply asking the question just to say, hey, I want to get to know you better. This was trying to implicate. This was trying to pull Peter into what was actually happening as a willing participant. Jesus is taken away from them. They all flee. They all got to get out of the immediate area. They want to be someplace safe. They want to guard their lives. And see what they will do with Jesus not being included in their life anymore. And Peter wants to have kind of like a safe distance, but at the same time a safe escape route to some degree. Remains close by and still holds on tightly to the fact that I will not deny him, right? I mean, that's kind of what the setting and the mood and the feel of it is right there. But I like the way Matthew kind of gives us this interesting perspective, one that for me has some chilling symbolism. And your first point is this: call it spiritual vicinity. Call it spiritual vicinity. Peter begins in the courtyard, right? He begins right in the same house, in a place where he'd be able to perhaps see what's going on, certainly hear what's going on, right there, being as supportive, being a part of what's going on, and not missing out. Maybe even able to witness what's happening and get a feel for what might happen with Jesus. And the first inquiry, the first time he's questioned, is a simple answer. I don't know the guy. You must have me mistaken for somebody else. You must think I'm somebody else completely different. And he just leaves it there. But now he's in a hot spot, right? So he moves a little further away out to the gateway. And from the gateway, we have another inquiry. But even in this semi-supportive situation, there's a bit of a different sound to his voice and a bit of a different feel to what he's saying. When asked, he's short, he's terse, he's angry. I don't know, and he makes an oath. He swears that he doesn't know. And I think this is a bit more concrete. And the reason why is because in the Old Testament, you hear many times where they were told, don't make an oath. Don't make that kind of a promise, because guess what? God's going to hold you to that promise. So he's making a promise with God. He does not know who this man is. Now for me, this third inquiry is kind of like a clean break. This is the one where it just really, we're still perhaps in the same spot, but now it's getting even hotter where he is, because they can detect his accent. They're coming to see, is this guy with him? Is this guy part of it? But this time he curses Jesus. I don't know this man. He throws curses down on Jesus that he doesn't know. Did you notice anything? As Peter's connection to Jesus starts to fade, what happens? He's further and further away from him. And it's not just a physical location of further and further away, right? Because it's not just him saying, oh, you've got me mixed up. Oh, you've got me mixed up. No, he's putting more and more spiritual distance between him and the Lord by saying an oath that he doesn't know, and then curses that he doesn't know this man. The further we get from it, the more adamant he gets. And we see his willingness to distance himself from Jesus on so many levels. You know, it's easy to turn your back when you know you're right, and there's no danger of being right. It's easy to do that, but man, when the heat is on, what happens? And then you find that it gets easier and easier to step away from God when you've already made one step. When you've already made an oath that you don't know, when you already have told people, I'm not who you think I am, and that's not who I follow. And then I think, how about us? How about us? Now, we're not in the courtyard. We're not at the gateway. But at the same time, aren't we often in those situations where we have every opportunity to share who this guy is, to say, yeah, I'm with him. Yeah, you did see me praising him. You did see me honoring him with my life. My second point is simple. How close are we? How close are we? Do we witness to our faith? Or have we been pushed back from trying to be both a follower and in this world that we live in? That we've tried to live a double life, that we can somehow be this follower and at the same time live perfectly comfortably within this life and in this world. You know, in my mind, I can actually picture this unfolding. You know, in the courtyard, it was hard. It was like, you know, you're the center of it all. But then at that gateway, I can see him straddling inside and outside at the same time. Can't you? Where there's part of this saying, I'm here for Jesus, but at the same time, I need a quick getaway. Just sitting on either side of that door. Do we allow ourselves to speak negatively? Do we live in a life where we talk or act completely different from who we say we are? A coarse word here or there, a softly spoken put down to just a few people that we know that we never push it beyond that. Is it how we regularly treat people that shows how close or how far we really are from the Lord? Is it how we regularly treat people and don't get me started about the business world, because I know what that is. That's not do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's do unto others before they plan to or when they were already going to do something to you. That's the business world. And what about our giving? Because you know, our time, our presence, and our talents, they're at a premium. They're at a premium. Your time and my time is very valuable to you and to me. But the needs are out there too. I don't think we can turn a blind eye to the fact that we're closing schools where kids are looking for food for breakfast and for lunch. And there's 2 weeks that are going to go by where that is not as sure as it used to be. Are we trying to preserve some balance so that we can straddle the world that we live in and somehow be a Jesus follower and a world citizen at the same time? Because if we do that, I guarantee you our steps are not heading towards the Lord. They're heading away. And that's why I titled this sermon, Witness or Accessory to the Crime, because if we are not witnessing for who the Lord is in our life, then we are an accessory to keeping him out of the minds and hearts of others. And nobody wants that. You know, because when you're an accessory to the crime, you do the time that the one who perpetrated the crime did. Your eternity and my eternity rests on the life that we live here. Not just the oath that we take, not just the question that we, not just the giving of our lives away so that Jesus takes over. Because we know that if he really takes over, then we're not the same people, and we don't do the same things, and we don't want the same things. And really, it leads me to ask this very simple question that hopefully is rolling around in your mind right now. Are we part of the solution, or are we part of the problem? Are we perpetrating the crime in our lives because of the way our lives are being lived? Or are we trying to witness to what God has done in our lives instead? The crime is an innocent man is arrested and tortured, but our lives do not make much of an attempt to reflect anything about it. In other words, we just end up falling in that category of more people for the reason why Jesus had to die. We're part of that whole population of people that were just handing the nails over to the guy and nailing them into his hands and his feet. So my next point is this: we are easily distracted. And if that is one conversation I've had 10 times, I've had it 20 times, and I know I've said it a million times here, and I'll say it for the rest of my life. The devil does not need your allegiance, he just needs you distracted. He doesn't have to have you in his back pocket to have control over your life. He doesn't have to have all of your life, he just wants a little bit of it. And when he has a little bit of it, that's all that he needs to stray you away. And it can be such a blurry line to cross from witness to accessory, because a lot of times we're unaware of which direction we're moving. We may think that we're headed right towards him, and we're heading right away from him. We may think it's okay, like Peter, to be in the courtyard, just shy of where everything bad is happening. But you know what? Our motives are known. Our motives are known. We can try and fly under the radar, kind of like the Christian Secret Service, right? And we'll be real secret, but there won't be a whole lot of service attached to it. And our purpose is lost. And our participation, it gets questioned, and not just with words, right? I mean, we are always under the watchful eye of those who want to know who Jesus is. Even when they don't know who Jesus is. But we are always in their eyesight. People observe the way, and they file it away. They may not ever come up to you and say, this is what I saw you do, this is what I heard you say, but they file it away. And when they're asked what Christians do, all they have in their files is all the things that they know are wrong about what Christians do. That's the reality. Peter denied Jesus. The rooster crowed. That's the reality. Now the good news is something that we're going to have to take on faith, and I'll tell you why. Because in Matthew's gospel, Peter doesn't get a mention again. They don't talk about Peter other than to say the disciples, which he would have been lumped in with, but they don't mention him again. So you're going to have to take on faith that there's more to this than just this one moment. And I'll tell you why. Because when you fall, when you blunder, when you fail, it doesn't end there. It doesn't have to end there. It doesn't have to be, that's it. Because I'll tell you right now, if you go into the book of Acts, you go just past, you realize that Peter was not just an active guy. Peter was not just a vocal guy. Peter was brazen. Peter took on the establishment. Peter was in a place where he could not be pushed, not be moved. And I think that to me is really the good news that I want you and everyone here to take with them. That even when we have denied Jesus, he's right there to pick us back up. He's right there to say, you know what? I'm going to give you another chance. I'm gonna love you no matter what. I'm going to believe in what I believed in you in the first place, even when you failed. Story after story. Peter with his newfound faith. So let's turn the heat up on people out there in Facebook land and people here. Are you a witness, or are you an accessory to the crime? What does your life say? What does your voice say? What are the fruits on your tree saying? And in that moment, Peter was an accessory, right? Peter was a part of trying to keep this Jesus thing quiet because he didn't want it to affect his life. But Jesus wasn't finished with it. Now, your life may be full of moments like that. Full of blunders, full of things that you wished went differently. And being part of a solution rather than being part of the problem is a stark reality, because there's no gray area. You're either living for the kingdom or you're not living for the kingdom. There is no in between on that. And it's funny how we can call ourselves Christian in one sentence and run out the door screaming when someone turns up the heat about what it means to be a Christian, or asks us if we're a Christian, and then we kind of backpedal a little bit or kind of say it under our breath, yeah, I might be one. Yeah. We become a Christian and we welcome others to the truth, right? Isn't that what it means? Isn't that the design of what it is? It is almost like a coronavirus. It's supposed to infect the people around you, and you were supposed to be one who infects other people with it. It's too bad much of what we say and do says something completely different. But that's the great part, right? Jesus still shows us his faithfulness despite our weakness. Salvation or being saved is not putting you or me up on the mantle waiting for Christ to come back and say, hey, all right, it's time to get down off the mantle. And it's not a mark on your heavenly file that says you get to go in the green room when it's all over. I mean, it is, but it has some right now implications with it. In other words, we become a Christian and it's not like, all right, now let's just wait for the glory train to come and pick us up. We got to invite other people on the ride. We got to say that there's still room. There's always room. But it's only through Jesus, right? And what happens is salvation actually puts us on the map and puts us on the opposing team of the devil. But too often we forget and we start running the plays that he likes us to run instead. Do you want to be opposed to the devil? Do you want to be on the team that really seeks to put him in the ground once and for all, never to bother anyone, never to steal anyone from our lives again? See, when I put it that way, it makes perfect sense. Everybody wants to be on that team. Everybody wants that. But then what do our actions, what do our lives display? That's what you gotta think about. How many times when the heat was on did you, like Peter, can I say an oath? I swear I don't know what you mean by that. You know, we'll do anything that we can for our friends, right? We will bail them out of jail. We will bail them out of a hole. We will bail them out of anything that they're in. We'll do anything that we can so that we do not disappoint them, right? But the Lord of the universe puts us in situations where all that he asks for us to be is a light, a witness. And we turn our backs. We shut our eyes. We close our mouths and do nothing about it. We will do everything in our power to carry out even the most monumental tasks that we don't even think we're able to do, so that people will be admiring of how hard we work for them. And we'll take 1 second and just blow it for the Lord. What about sharing your faith? Are you as passionate about sharing your faith as you are about taking care of your family? Are you as passionate about sharing your faith as you are about taking care of the needs of your friends, of your spouse even? This is how big it gets. This is how serious this is. So I want to give you 3 things to take away with you. These are 3 very quick things that'll help you make sure that you are always a witness and not an accessory to crime. And the first one is this: be on guard. Be on guard. To be reliable, it takes constantly checking your position. That means prayer. Lord, am I seeking you with all my heart? Am I seeking you where you're sending me? Am I ignoring where you're sending me, Lord? We seem to have no problem letting God down. But what if we took a different route? What if we were just on guard and said, Lord, guide my steps. Honestly, guide my steps. Let me be guided by you. What a difference it would make. Even when it's not a popular choice. When it puts us at odds with our family. When it puts us at odds with our friends or at our job. But still do that. Still reckon the love of the Lord Jesus Christ more than anything else on this planet. What a difference. I know it's not easy. And I'd be a liar if I didn't say that it wasn't something that I have to struggle with all the time. but it doesn't make it any less important. So be on guard. Second one is be prepared. You got to know your story. You got to know your story. That means, this is a good one, because this one covers everything, all right? This covers the whole kit and caboodle. You know how it all ends. Jesus wins, right? You know that part that you play in it. When he came and found you when you were somewhere where you should have been, and he rescued you from it. He sought you and he saved you for his purpose. You know that. You know your author. And because of that, you also know the story deals not just with your lifetime, not just with the moment you spend on this earth, but even beyond, into forever. And once we know why we were created, which is to be a blessing, to draw glory to God, to be something that others see and want for themselves, then the third one makes perfect sense. Be a blessing. Be a blessing. Share your story not only with words, say it with your life. Say it with the new life that you found. Every time. You know why? Because every time you say something, every time you stand up for something, every time that it is something that regards Jesus, every time a seed is planted. You're confirming a belief. You're encouraging another believer to continue on when maybe they're feeling like they're about done. It means a life out of the shadows, not hampered by what other people think. It means the choice to witness to something that gives you the greatest hope imaginable. Now, I can walk up to you one-on-one and say, hey, look, where is your hope? Where does your hope come from? And if you quote the Psalm, you're going to say, my help comes from the Lord, who doesn't sleep, who doesn't... You can say, my hope comes from Jesus Christ, the man who saved my life. But you can't be in the shadows when he brings that light into your life. You can't be in the shadows. And it means going from being a scurrying, scared person to being a conduit. You take on a responsibility that is so much bigger than you are, because you are now the initiator of someone else's faith when you share your story. And that is a blessing. And see again, we look at blessings in terms of right at this moment versus somewhere way down the road. But this covers both of those. Because in that moment, you are right where God wanted you. You were doing right what God had you to do. You were saying exactly what God needed you to say, and he's going to carry out all the hard part. And that's a blessing. And then there's going to come a time when we all face him. And we all have to say, hey, look, this is what my life looked like. And he's going to say, I remember when you spoke up for me there. I remember how much I loved you and how much you loved me. And I'll never forget that. And he'll say, you're going to be with me forever. So I leave you with that same question. Are you a witness, or are you an accessory to crime?
You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. So Brad, it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out your praise, pour out your praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing.
you would stand, please. We're going to do this. Do this. Hopefully, you came in here feeling a little heavy because the world around us is out of our control. But you're leaving a little lighter because the Lord has it. Again, I say it again, keep an eye on your emails, keep an eye on what's going on. Be safe. And know that you're loved with a love greater than anything this world can offer. Have a great week.
We're being live right there. Facebook.
Before I do this, group life.
I don't know how to turn that off.